Data Inc. And Guy Shepherd is the head of compliance initiatives in the Americas, Nordics, and UK, increasing UK and Ireland aspect. So we're going to get to have them going, and thank you to our panelists, and I will leave it to you, Jerry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, very much, Sally. And again, on behalf of the IDB, we want to thank you for your wisdom and innovation and for your focus on what we believe for countries in the Caribbean is one of our most critical problems. And we're hoping as a direct result of this event that we hopefully bring energy, resources, technology, and intellectual capacity, and some political mileage and power to help us solve this. We are small in size in the Caribbean, but as you're well aware, given our Olympic prowess and given our prowess in Rhodes Scholars and also our contribution to the diaspora in many developed countries, we certainly believe in the Caribbean that we want to be perfectly able to deal with a problem that exists, whether it's a problem that is self-inflicted or a problem that is inflicted from the outside. I am just a wee bit upset because we had so many people here today, because Sally assembled such bright panels this morning, and the information was so overwhelming. And then in the Caribbean, you know what happens after we eat. Exactly. So our panel, which I affectionately call the smart panel, ends up talking to a room that not necessarily has quantity, but certainly, given that I know quite a few of you, has an exceptional amount of quality. This panel is intended to be interactive. I told my panelists that there will be no monologues. They'll each speak for 5 minutes, and then they're going to engage in a robust discussion with you. Not only is this panel a smart panel, but we've also built this panel as a solutions panel. So the takeaway from this will be that we're working on a solution in the Caribbean, and we're going to get it right regardless of what they throw at us. So we're going to sequence the panel as follows. First of all, everybody here, with one exception, of course, is absolutely brilliant. So I won't tell you about their credentials, because if you got the printout on the program weeks ago, you would have heard about their credentials. But what I will say is, when I got the Bahamas Government Scholarship way back when, in 1981, and I went out to New York, my first degree was in computer science. So before I became a CPA, before I did law, before I did real estate, anything, I started off in computer science. Give some idea, that was 1981. Ronald Reagan was president. And the laptop computer was not invented. Apple had just come out with a little green box, and I had an internship at IBM, and I remember there's like the System 36 where we used to have to feed data cards. Anybody remember COBOL? Combined business app, we used to do all our business programming in COBOL, and for those of us who did Calc4, we did all of our calculus calculation in Fortran. Remember that? Formula translator. So there's so many beautiful people that just wrote about giving me a blank stare. But for those of you of my generation, you remember what we did when this box called the computer was first invented. And to see now that the computer literally provides us with a new paradigm shift and a new lifestyle, in my lifetime, it's really a privilege. And so I believe that we're in for a treat with what the next generation, which I think Gabriel represents, is coming up with as a solution for us. So he's going to go last. My first panelist, I will call him Mr. Swift, Guy Shepherd. Now Swift, you know, is owned by all the big boy bikes, and together they are working on a solution, because this problem of de-risking and the problem of regulators constantly coming back at the banks, finding things wrong and charging them money in the form of fines and making them revamp what they're doing, is equally a financial as well as an intellectual problem for them. For us in the Caribbean, we should always define it as a problem with severe social consequences. And that's how I define it at a political level at the IDP. But for SWIFT, it is an intellectual and quite frankly a regulatory problem. And Guy is going to speak to that here and now. After that, we're going to have Cheyenne, and Cheyenne is Mr. IBM, Mr. Technology, and he's going to define the world in which IBM is looking at a futuristic solution to get your brain stimulated. And then we're going to then refocus on what is probably the nuts and bolts of how people who are working with the systems are trying to come up with a solution as they deal with regulatory problems. And that's where Oscar Zuberi is going to come in. And I want you to pay attention there because he's going to talk about his U.S. Mexican experience with credit unions. And you know, credit unions are the lifeblood of the small businessman in the Caribbean. And then we're going to wrap this all up with a Caribbean solution, totally outside the box, by a young, innovative Caribbean national from Barbados, and that's Gabriel. And if we move too fast and if the language sort of overwhelms you, just hold up your hands and I will tap them and tell them to slow it down so you can pay attention. So that will be the sequence of how we handle things, and remember, you can interrupt anytime with a question and we will entertain you and we will try to give you what we think is a response. And if the response is not good enough, blame it on me, because it means I wasn't smart enough to phrase it for you. So with that being said, Guy, you want to tell us about SWIFT? It's all yours.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm not sure how my CEO got quickly wrong with the response to me Mr. SWIFT, but I appreciate the sentiment. So in terms of how I thought we would progress this, I wanted to talk to you about the here and now and what SWIFT is doing. And SWIFT is first and foremost a technology company. We are privileged, I think, to maintain the global payments network. And yes, this is a network and a curious, I think, commercial dynamic in that we are non-profit driven and that all of the banks that are active on the SWIFT network are our shareholders. So that's not just the big guys like Citi and HSBC, that is you in this room as well. And de-risking is obviously something that is of paramount importance to SWIFT. I think we've released several white papers on this. And there are a number of solutions we already have in the marketplace, which I think are extremely relevant to the Caribbean community. So in my humble and in the limited time that I have to discuss this, I'm going to focus on the symptoms of de-risking as a lack of transparency, the cost that we've talked about, and the need for standardization. I think that's grossly oversimplified, but just to keep things fairly steady. So from a transparency perspective, SWIFT has actually invested, I think now, over $4.5 million in the KYC registry, which is a global big bank approved set of data and documents, and it is free for local banks to register. And my team would kill me if I did not implore any banks that are not currently registered to put your data in. SWIFT will independently validate that information, and that is what we see as a clear signal to other correspondent banks that you are adhering to a global standard that often goes above and beyond what the local regulation is. And we already have some fantastic success stories. You heard earlier from Haiti, Curaçao, more recently Panama, Dominican Republic. The momentum is really growing, and I see that personally as the first step in addressing a lot of the de-risking issues. It also helps address the issue of cost that we've heard talk about. I think one of the things that hasn't been discussed is the sheer cost of putting innovation, where we have over 70% of cross-border traffic. It's been become 87 of the world's large and arguably super large regionals have already signed up to this project. The idea being to be able to trace the lifespan of cross-border payment, so you can see exactly where it is and when that has been actioned. In other words, trying to dig beneath the mystique of cross-border payments, which is often a challenge. I also want to talk to you about standardization. Swift is currently the largest single provider of message screening with over 550 clients to our screening solution globally. And that service offers a level of standardized filters, matches, data, but critically, the quality assurance that we provide that you can in turn provide to your correspondents. And that's something I think that we haven't really touched on, or I'm surprised that we haven't really done justice to. One of the areas where I think a lot of de-risking happens is around lack of transparency, sure. Regulatory, the need to comply with onerous local regulation, of course, and the threat of heavy penalties. But there is also an inherent need to understand the effectiveness of your local controls. And I haven't heard that addressed at all today really in any great depth. And it's one of the reasons why we launched in the last 2 years over 12 different financial crime solutions. And as we are not a profit-driven entity, you can imagine the price points of those are very attractive to smaller indigenous banks, which are exactly the type of Swift shareholders that are facing such dire consequences, which we've heard about. It was originally launched in Africa and South Asia, and we already have over 62 live customers across Latin America and the Caribbean. So, although I'm not here sharing silver bullets with you, what I did want to perhaps be slightly more positive is that there are solutions that are in the marketplace. They are not a silver bullet. I don't even think Bitcoin is sort of but I think they are ways that you demonstrating adherence to a higher standard of regulatory compliance, transparency, and a global standard that is accepted, whether it's the Caribbean, Myanmar, or Vietnam. And I think that's critical for us to be able to provide to you.
Gabriel, thank you very much for those opening comments. I think that when you talk about issues like cost, certainly for the indigenous banks in the Caribbean, cost has been a heavy toll. In fact, the cost of implementing some of these systems to conform with the regulators, both the regulators domestically and internationally, is so prohibitive that really when you meet with indigenous bankers in the Caribbean, they double their hands and say they just want to be out of the business. And I think when you give a solution where you accept the cost of development, and then you know in the Caribbean we like the word free, and you say it's free to get involved, you really prick our ears up, and I hope we can return to that discussion. Cheyenne from IBM, I call it my brilliant right hand, is going to go next, and he's going to frame the discussion in a more futuristic way and try to crystallize the elements of where the future is going in dealing with this business of access to finance, which you know is an intimate part of the SDG goals and certainly applies to our region. So, Jan, take it away.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you everyone for allowing me to share a few thoughts. As in fact, as we were just doing today's discussion, there were a number of folks that mentioned technology and impact. And in fact, it's been a phenomenon over the last 5 years or so, especially in the technology community, in particular with the VC. Just last year alone, there were about $12 billion of VC money that was invested in fintechs. And a few years ago, it was about $5 billion. So there's been more than 100% greater investment that will be made in fintechs. And that trend seems to be continuing. But I think we should just define what is a fintech. Fintech basically stands for financial technologies. But we usually refer to, when we say fintech, refer to startup companies. However, there are many large corporations, such as IBM development of pure research, and a lot of that goes into studying fintech, how to improve our clients, which are banks. So let me just mention just 3 technologies we believe are very relevant and that will be significant in helping our banks, in particular, to improve costs, make things more efficient, and also help reduce risk, and at the same time, perhaps creating business models. So one is blockchain. You'll notice that say Bitcoin, I'm talking about blockchain. Although blockchain is a technology that underpins Bitcoin, blockchain can be used for a lot more than just cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is a fantastic application that was created several years ago for cryptocurrency. But from our working with the banks and our research and development organization, we've been coming up with identifying many different use cases, especially financial services companies, but not just in financial services, in other organizations such as government, transportation, supply chain management, retail, insurance industry, etc. So, if I let down what is a blockchain? Blockchain is a distributed database technology that improves the interaction between organizations that participate in the network to do that much more efficiently, but also very securely. Underlying the key technology is cryptography. The model of cryptography allows you to store information in this distributed database that gets replicated to everybody in the network. But security information is where no one can tamper with it. Such that when you put the information there, such as a payment transaction or banking transaction or deposit transaction, that transaction cannot be cheated. So there's immutability and finality of the information, which is why if any asset were to digitize, such as currency or even a contract or loan contracts, any movement of that asset can be traced because every time there's a transaction, it will be stored in the blockchain and no one can tamper with that information in terms of what transactions happen afterwards. Which is why it's such a popular application. Bitcoin is a very popular application. But we're looking at applications such as trade finance, reference data, commercial loans, mortgage processing, security processing, and security clearing and settlement, as well as payments. So the second technology I'll mention is the artificial intelligence. Or sometimes we call it cognitive technology. What is cognitive? It's a computer that computes not just through programmable manner, but it learns by itself by ingesting massive amounts of data, including training data, and then it improves itself and also interacts in a natural way with the human. So AI or cognitive technology is not to replace humans, but it's to augment, assist the humans to do their job better. The technology can be used for front office personnel as they interact with their customers, with their business customers or consumers. It can be used for self-service or robo-advisor or any kind of help desk type of application. It can also be used, in fact, it can be used for to improve AML and fighting financial crime. For example, the AML, most of the AML applications are driven by business rules. The problem with business rules is that once someone can detect what those rules are, they can bypass the rules. Then unless someone else will change those rules, whoever is trying to bypass the criminal will continue to bypass the system. Whereas with machine learning, you will learn that it's failed ones, and you will learn that it needs to improve and change its model, and so that you will be able to improve how the AI works and catch the bad patterns. So that's cognitive or AI. We believe it's going to have a significant impact on how the business is done. And third, I'll touch very briefly is mobile technology. All of us, I'm sure every one of us here in this room has a smartphone. But it's not just us. In the U.S., about 20% of the population are underbanked. But just about every one of those 20% of the population has a mobile phone. And it becomes the
essentially, my group has the telecommunications sector, and we're bringing all of the technology to the financial sector. So we believe that all sectors are eventually going to merge. But what is it exactly what we're doing? We have today a mobile app that essentially facilitates the movement of money, instant movement of money, whether you're a feet away or you're 1,000 miles away. So it's called wallet, whoever can take this card, I'll email you a video so you can see it completely working. So that's one of the items that we have. Second, we have a formidable core banking financial system supporting that particular application, and it can support any other type of mobile app. And then we have a network by which we move that money. Our network right now is integrated to the central bank of the U.S., so we have visibility over the U.S. and other central banks around the world, and we are in the process of integrating 700 network of 700 credit unions in the U.S. And in the next couple of months, we're expanding and integrating networks in several South American countries, and hopefully Q1 with some of your help with the Caribbean. So those are the elements that we have. An app to facilitate the end user experience. We have a core banking financial system on the cloud to facilitate collaboration among financial institutions. And we have a network, essentially, that facilitates any financial network to attach to itself so we can collaborate. So that's what we have, that's what we're operating. What is it that we are solving? We're solving a small financial institution dilemma. We have worked and invested in microfinancial institutions, in credit unions, and the dilemma is they don't have the resources for compliance, they don't have the resources to get a real core banking system, and so forth. So we have created with, in partnership with Microsoft, a formidable, very large-scale platform that allows the small financial institutions to co-brand the app that we have, if they want to get into the P2P movement, to leverage global resources using our platform to collaborate among themselves for local purpose. By global resources, for instance, we have a real-time compliance system. Okay, audits and transactions are flying over the net. In the case of the U.S., the real-time gets you the foreign exchange currency, real-time checks against OFAC or any blackmail, real-time discloses fees and so forth, as an example. But we are essentially facilitating collaboration among small financial institutions without telling them, listen, you gotta come together, you gotta become a monopoly, but no, stay small. However, we are in a position to help you facilitate collaboration among groups that you form, among federations of financial institutions or credit unions. That's what we're doing. So at the end of the day, we have put on the cloud or on the internet enough Lego pieces to give you that capability. And we, unlike a lot of software developers and so forth, we do not license our software. We essentially use it by the brain. So the starting points it doesn't require any investment to start leveraging our platform. So in a nutshell, we are here to essentially complement your operations. When we say we have an app, it's your app. So you can be sure of the app. When we say we have a core financial system on the cloud, those are the Lego pieces that facilitate you leverage global resources. When we say we have a network, essentially it's your network. Essentially, we're facilitating for you to take advantage of the networks that we already have. And I'll be happy
represents what is the future of the Caribbean. All and everything that we idolize in our young people, and the way they think and the way they're going to take us forward. If there's anything the politicians in the Caribbean and those of us who lead industry have to learn is that we have to let go, and we have to let these young people fly and take us another direction. So it's really been a lot of fun to talk with them, and I think you'll have a lot of fun listening to them, and I think you'll realize that he means business when eventually he is going to be everything that the finance sector in the Caribbean is talking about. So next up is Gabriel, and Gabriel, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. So you would have been given a brief introduction to what we do throughout the course of today, which I must say I'm rather impressed to hear blockchain and Bitcoin drop so often by so many people. I could only have imagined or wish for this 5 years ago when we first started in this field. So I'm the CEO of a small financial technology company in Barbados called Bit.com. We started with the idea of providing financial inclusion for every last man, woman, and child. What we did when we first started was establish a digital exchange and talked to the digital layer and then to the fiat layer. Over the years, the model evolved. And what we would have learned from today is that there's quite a few problems within the Caribbean banking sector. So we actually wrote an entirely new system. Looking at the 3 layers of banking, where you have the asset issuance, point of printing at the central bank, where that's where fiat is printed, and then you have the circulation at the banking level, and then you have the asset tax accessibility at the consumer level. We focus on all 2 layers. In February 2016 of this year, we were able to get the sanction of the Barbados government, the Ministry of Finance. I'm not seeing Dr. Bilal world here, the Central Bank of Barbados, to move ahead with the world's first digital cash. And I say this is the world's first digital cash because you have M-Pesa carrying on with their centralized airtime credit, you have PayPal, you have various digital solutions, but that's not true digital cash. Cash is something that I can hand from one person to another without any restrictions or quarters added to that, barriers, added to that transaction. What we were then able to do was utilize this digital distributed ledger capabilities to store asset value, in this case the Barbados dollar. So what we did was we took the Bitcoin technology and we added a layer to it, rather than embed a layer to it that would be considered a digital token. What we did thereafter was build processes, procedures, and a regulatory framework around what that system would look like. Now, why would one want to digitize a local fiat, the government dollar? Well, for one reason, the friction added to fiat is quite heavy. Cash management is hard to deal with. Right now in society, we don't have digital systems in the Caribbean. So utilizing this model, we were able to create an environment that would allow us to start building out an ecosystem. This ecosystem would surround merchants, tellers, ATMs, payroll, bill payment, all wrapped with the circulation layer banking, all approved with the asset issuance of central banking. Why did we want to do this? Well, we can go down many reasons for doing this, but one of the most important reasons was immutability. The ability to have that data stored forever, a timestamp transaction. So what we did in 2016 of this year, earlier this year when we launched, was starting the digitization of the dollar, then moving into the other layers of the business, which was building up the consumer-facing products. We now have completed the asset issuance layer. We also completed the consumer-facing products. So what this means is that you can expect to see Barbadians leapfrogging financial systems to the extent where every transaction that can occur on the island can occur digitally, whether it's paying for coffee or doing a remittance or a simple bank transfer. The idea there is utilizing this open source, open, all-inclusive technology is that we can build a very powerful but independent banking. Assuming, of course, we get permissions to move ahead with that, we can start to see a digital ecosystem of direct settlement, thus giving us way more power and control than we would have ever anticipated, giving our Caribbean people of the Caribbean unprecedented control of their money, which is one of the main issues right now that we face. Without the frictional costs that are applied, with direct settlement, done in a peer-to-peer fashion, with full transparency and accountability of every transaction. In this field, I can monitor every transaction to a much higher level of accuracy than the traditional banking layers. And what this means for us is being able to counter the various problems that will be identified from anti-money laundering to counter-terrorism financing, all the way down to fraud. So in essence, the conclusion I would say is that we are looking here as a group complaining that these are very imminent threats that we're facing as a society or as a region. And the fact of the matter is the technology is there, the solutions are there. What's needed at this point is for the other actors in the system to observe their weaknesses. And in this case, I would say that's the banking system and the central banking system. And then to observe the strengths that financial technology companies bring and that the new generation of financial tools come with. With that being said, if the layers of regulatory control were implemented around the approval of digital currencies or cryptographic currencies, we can expect to see a very beautiful economy forming of direct peer-to-peer settlement, of frictionless remittances, of a full digital economy. And if I am not wrong about this statistic, I believe Kenya saw GDP growth of over 8% in 5 years since they introduced digital financial tools. And we could very well expect to see that in this region. But the most important part is that we would give our users the independence that they deserve. It's a human right to have access to global financial systems. And my friend from IBM would have talked about financial inclusion earlier today being one of the cornerstones of this field. And he's absolutely right. Giving the user, every last man, woman, child, access to global financial inclusions is an absolute. And coupling that with the distributed ledger technologies that are offered onto the market can absolutely solve all the problems that were addressed here today. So I would repeat once again, every single problem that was addressed here today is more than adequately covered, including remittances and the future of financial technology.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. It looks like the future is really in excellent hands. When I think about what you've done, I think about right now when we go down to Barbados, and I think it's 2-1. Used to be in Barbados, they were so focused on being Barbadian citizens, etc., that they used to make you exchange your US dollars and get $2 billion to even buy Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now, in Barbados, if you go to KFC, they'll take your US dollars. So the Barbadian dollar itself, in terms of the acceptance in Barbados, seems to be confronting a reality that Caribbean people want to hold on to US dollars. When I think about your technology and how it's focused in Barbados, and it's backed by Barbados Central Bank in the sense that they've accepted it, I guess I kind of wonder why the technology you brought wasn't based on acceptance by the Federal Reserve, since the US dollar is much more a currency than any other currency. And then I guess the other question I would raise that I hope the audience gets into is what is interesting about this particular region I represent at the IEB is I don't do a financial deal in the Caribbean without talking to the Canadians. The 3 largest Canadian banks in the Caribbean, the 3 largest banks in the Caribbean Can I say my name and then they Sally for the advertising? Bank Nova Scotia, Royal Canada, and First Caribbean, which is the purified coffee. And I gave a speech in Halifax, Nova Scotia about 3 weeks ago, and someone reminded me that there also used to be the Bank of Montreal, which had very good coffee, right? That's somewhat right. So I guess the kind of question I would ask you would be why technology wasn't based on a functional currency in the Caribbean, and to what extent that's even relevant if the technology is exportable and acceptable from an exchange rate perspective with North America. But that being said, I don't get to ask questions first. I'm looking at you guys. Okay. Let's start with Jared. I should tell you first that he is at the level of chairmanship of Barclays. So this is a real heavy hitter who's going to ask us a question. I think we need a technology expert.